Suresh is the President Commercialization at SRI International. Prior to joining SRI in 2020, he was the Associate Laboratory Director for Advanced Energy Technologies at Argonne National Laboratory. Suresh has over 25 years of experience in deep technology commercialization, including startups, large corporations, and nonprofit research institutions. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for the kind introduction, and thank you for the opportunity to be here. It's a pleasure. My talk vectors in a slightly different direction than the ones that we just had. So just for context, I thought I would just explain. SRI, where I work, is a research institute. My job there is to find ways to move deep tech to commercial impact. And think of this as a case study. I'm going to tell you what I do. And please, hopefully it's of value. When I talked with Keegan, he said that this might be interesting for this audience, given the interest in scaling sustainability. SRI has not in the recent past done a lot of work in sustainability, although we are leaning more into it. But the work profile is typically deep tech, so time and physics, kind of important. So I thought this would be useful just to kind of walk you through how we think about it. And to give you a little bit of context beyond what I just said then, we're an independent mission-driven nonprofit institute. We began life as Stanford Research Institute, so we were affiliated with Stanford all the way through 1970, from 1946 when we were founded. And the goal, right from its very founding, was to create impact from applied research. So some of the early work led to the SWIFT banking network. Some of the early work led to the use of magnetic inks in checks because some of the early founding work was done by the Bank of America. We continue to innovate at the cutting edge of a lot of different domains. We're about 1,600 people. We're headquartered in Menlo Park. We acquired Park from Xerox, so we're also on the other side of Stanford at the Stanford Research Park. And what you see in the logos there, we also received as a donation from GE Sarnoff research. So what is SRI today includes Park, includes Sarnoff, so great legacy. Starting at 3 o'clock, in fact, IEEE is awarding at Park right now 3 different awards for Park research. For Ethernet, for laser printing, and for the Alto computer. And that's today at 3 o'clock. So just to give you, just to orient you, we're about, in terms of funds we're a little over 400 million. And most of that is federal funding, about 85 to 90%. While people may not have heard specifically about SRI, I am pretty certain that you are using on a daily basis something that came out of SRI. Whether it's the computer mouse, the Ethernet, the first message on the ARPANET went from UCLA to SRI, whether you're doing LCD displays, to Siri, which is one of our more famous spinouts. Like I said, we are a government-funded laboratory, and a lot of the work, and I came out of Argonne National Laboratory, a Department of Energy lab, and since this is the focus of this conference is scaling sustainability, I can tell you that there is a very key role that government plays in not only innovating at the early stages, but in moving that to a point of commercial readiness, or at least to the point where it's investable. A lot of the work previously was focused on early stage work, basic science, low technology readiness levels. What we're seeing now, particularly in the last 5 to 10 years, is a movement towards more funding that is moving up the technology readiness level scale to make it more ready for commercial transition. We work with a wide variety of federal agencies. We also work with a large number of corporates. And this is our model in a nutshell. We solve problems. People come to us and say, we want to do X with Y, or these are our constraints, and we want to figure out how does one do this. They're usually technology agnostic. And what we try to do is to help them do it first demonstrate that it's possible, and then show them a path to how they can do this repeatably. That is the basis of what SRI has been doing for all of its last 75 years plus. So we solve problems, we apply technology to do that, and then we focus on transition, whether, however we can do it. And since this is really about, scaling, I thought I would just give you a little bit of a, we have a cheat sheet, if you will, and that's the plot on the bottom right. And you probably can't see the two axes, but on the y-axis we talk about the scale of the or the size of the market, and on the x-axis is the maturity of the industry. The more mature the particular industry is, we think that licensing is a better opportunity because there are established companies in that space. So if you're really focused on a transition, we look for ways to transition the technology through licensing. Where we see opportunities in relatively immature markets, we look to create a company, we spin it out, or we work with existing startups in a way to accelerate their path to market. What makes SRI somewhat unique, and I say this having worked in technology commercialization over the last 25 years on a number of different private sector and nonprofit sector entities, what makes SRI unique or particularly interesting, I think, is that we are able to sample a wide variety of options. We are not constrained by deal size, deal structure, nature of transaction, et cetera. So, and we're also not motivated primarily by financial impact. Our goal is commercial impact. The financial return is nice, but not the fundamental focus of what we do. What that allows us to do is, whether it's engaging with commercial partners through what we call research as a service, whether it is product transition, helping move the technology to the point where it can be taken by our customers, our clients to market, or whether it's through ventures, activities where we either create a startup or move it. We also help our partners innovate, improve their innovation readiness, if you will. How can they leverage what we learn? Because that's what we found in the several decades of experience we've had. Sometimes you turn over a proof of concept and you say, this is what you need, this is how you solve the problem. And they go, well, we're not quite sure how to take that to market, right? There's the business model piece, there's the manufacturing piece, there's the scale piece, et cetera. So we spend a lot of time with our clients. And most of our business tends to be repeat business as a result. We don't do a lot of, like I said, we don't market ourselves very widely, but that's because people find us because of the specific niche of what we do. A little bit in terms of the type of stuff that, how we characterize and how we think about problems. We spend a lot of time with opportunity development. We really try to understand, is there an existing market? Are we creating a new market? Are we expanding it? What is the impact? What is the role and value of IP? As I mentioned, everything we do is deep technology. And so IP is very important. Time tends to be elongated. This is not two people with pizza in a garage. This is stuff that requires usually labs that are well equipped, teams of scientists, and then onwards from the research. The team continues to be key, and we recognize, because we have an enormous set of talent, but our talent is scientific talent, we recognize the need to bring in the right kind of business entrepreneurs, and having our headquarters in the Valley is a huge advantage. Being able to leverage the talent here to complement the technical talent that might exist at SRI or the teams that we is a key to the success that we are able to deliver. And of course, everything around techno-economic analyses and whatever one might need to move from the problem statement to a proof of concept to a minimum viable product, ultimately to product. I won't spend time on the details, but I'm happy to cover more of how we think about this. One of the themes of these sessions is really, and I saw it in all the talks earlier, it is in being able to relate to others in the ecosystem. We think that is critical. You can see here, beyond kind of our partnerships with the federal funding agencies as well as large corporates, having connections to the investor network in the Valley, having connections to key institutes like Stanford, having connections to foundations. All of these matter, and how you bring the different pieces together is a part of how we can drive commercialization depending upon the technology and the specific focus of the market opportunity. We have I mentioned that one of the ways we take things to market is through ventures, and this is an area where We have been somewhat successful, I will say, again, because financial return is not our primary metric. Our focus is really in trying to take that technology and find a way to have it have commercial impact. So our success rate is actually pretty good. Over 33% of our portfolio companies find exits, a lot of them through M&A. Because they have found a way to solve a problem and put together a team that is particularly exciting and interesting. So in the Series A, Series B stage, we see a lot of acquisition activity of our companies. There's a kind of a list of some of them, and then the ones that the logos on top are our existing portfolio. We have a portfolio of about 40 or so companies. Entrepreneurs are key. I invite, if there are GSB students here that are interested in learning more about, or looking for your next opportunity, please look me up. We're just down the road. We're a couple of miles away, and we're always excited and interested in interacting with people that bring the business side of the equation to whatever technology that we might have. It is deep tech, just as a clarification. We do invest. We do think that a proof of concept is usually not enough to make it investable. So we do invest in driving that minimum viable product, the business model development, building out that team. We do see that as a critical piece. And that is something that, as you think about your own opportunities, certainly how that is done, how much priority you place on that, I certainly, from my experience, view that as a critical difference in your ability to succeed and get to the next stage. Our goal ultimately is to kind of create that investment syndicate, the right one for the opportunity, with the right team and the right technology. I know I've only got a few minutes left, so I'm going to, Keegan thought that it would be nice to talk about a few examples. I've got a sampling here, maybe just a couple that I can talk about in the interest of time. Drishti is an interesting one. It just recently got acquired by Apple. But if you trace the kind of the history of that technology, a Japanese corporate came to us and said, hey, we have manufacturing plants in Japan and in South America. In Japan, our productivity is X. In South America, our productivity is a third less. And we don't know why. We know it's the same training. We know it's the same opportunities. How can you do this? And we had developed, that was the problem statement. And we had an enormous set of vision technology that we had developed for a number of different defense-related applications. We said, hey, we could set up this vision technology and try to analyze what happens in your production line, and then use the intelligence that we gather from that to create, if you will, the kind of the right set of knowledge that you need to improve the training or address it in other ways. And indeed, they were successful in doing that. We said, hey, that's an interesting capability set. They're probably not the only company in the world that wants to use it. And that became the foundation of this company, Drishti. We found the right entrepreneur, and it was acquired recently, as I mentioned. Another example, perhaps, and I'll stop with that one, but that's Leo Labs. And that is, we are funded by the NSF to study the ionosphere. And it turns out that when you study the radio frequency waves of the ionosphere, you sometimes see noise. And we were wondering what that noise was about, and we realized that the noise actually is the position of satellites crossing the sky in low Earth orbit. So LEO satellites, suddenly we had this great way of tracking LEO satellites. It turns out it's pretty crowded up there. And there's a lot of people that are very interested in making sure that satellites don't collide and spend an enormous amount of time in tracking their satellites and making sure that they're vectoring appropriately in that space. We launched that company about 8 years ago. I'm told that they're close to being a unicorn. So we're excited about that one. I'll stop there. I know it's time for questions. Thank you.